to our latest episode of Ask the Betrayed. I'm Sharon,
I'm Rae.
and today we are going to talk about gratitude and the important part that it plays in betrayal trauma recovery.
Yeah. So, this idea of gratitude is one of these socially and seasonally spotlit topics. There is an expectation, there is a social anticipation, there is an understanding that there is an unspoken social contract that there are certain times of year when people are supposed to say and feel and do certain types of things. And at least here in the US, Thanksgiving and holiday season kicking off November, December tends to be exactly that, one of those socially, seasonally spotlit times of year. And there's nothing like going through one of these designated, socially indicated experiences while also going through our own private hell.
Mhm.
So, this idea of can this inner hell and an environment of gratitude coexist? And this goes back to what we've talked so often about is so challenging in trauma recovery is the idea that two things can be true or must be true at the same time if we're going to gain some traction and if we're going to heal and grow beyond the experience of something like betrayal and like infidelity and like betrayal trauma. When I first started thinking about this topic, the first thing that came to mind is if we're going to have an authentic real conversation about gratitude, I feel like we have to at least articulate some of what we're not saying or some of what we don't believe this to mean. So when I say that right off the top of my head, what is something that you don't believe we mean when we're talking about gratitude after betrayal?
To have gratitude about the experience, to immediately see a silver lining. I think that if we are forced to try to look at the good side of something that is so utterly destructive, we are being asked to abandon ourselves in a way that we already have been abandoned living with someone who has sexual secrets, has betrayed us intimately, and we are not all right with that.
I love that so much. So much. I think another thing that comes up for me is the idea that gratitude is sometimes purported to be the magic bullet. It is the thing that fixes everything. It is the missing piece that will just resolve everything all by itself. I don't believe that's true. I believe that gratitude can influence and inform and really impact trauma recovery, but it isn't the thing or the only thing, the standalone, isolated thing that's going to make the pain go away. And we want that, don't we?
We do. We want the pain to go away. Not that we think that life should be painless. We wish life were painless, right? It's not. But I'm thinking about the note that you left last night after running groups yesterday about the client who stated yesterday, I realized since this happened, I have not been present for who I am. And we want your pain to be manageable enough so that you can be who you are. We want that pain to become something that you can hold on to, as well as gratitude, joy, calm, happiness, excitement, all of those things. I loved how you said earlier that in order to heal from betrayal trauma, we must be able to hold two truths at the same time.
Yeah.
There are so many two truths to hold at the same time.
And when we get really good at it, we can try three or four. But two is a good place to start. So, this idea that within the trauma, we can find moments of grace, as you often call them, those glimmers of something that reminds us that there's more to our lives than the trauma. So I did this little quick Research this morning about the link, if there is anything. I just said, is there a link between trauma and gratitude? And I'd like to read briefly what it gave me back because it really crystallized for me what it is I'm kind of holding about this topic. And it says, there is a connection between trauma recovery and gratitude, not a neat linear one, but a real one. Gratitude can work a bit like traction when someone's been spinning their wheels in trauma. It doesn't erase the pain or make what happened okay, but noticing small good things, a warm mug, a safe glance, a cat purring, helps the nervous system remember that there is more to the world than threat. That reminder can soften hypervigilance, broaden perspective, and slowly build capacity to feel safe again. At the same time, trauma recovery often makes gratitude more possible. When someone has processed through to feel less flooded, the mind and body can open up space for appreciation. So the relationship is two-way. Gratitude supports healing, and healing allows gratitude to happen. Forced gratitude, be thankful, it could be worse, tends to backfire. Real gratitude in trauma recovery is more like a whisper than a demand.
That is so great.
That sense of toxic gratitude or toxic positivity around gratitude feels pressuring and it feels presumptive and it feels re-traumatizing in some ways. I tell a story sometimes about the first Thanksgiving I spent after my divorce. I was surrounded by people who loved me. That was the gratitude, that was the gift. And I was dealing with some heavy duty triggers at the time. The home where I was staying with them was literally mere miles down the street from where my ex-husband and all of his extended family was gathered together. And I couldn't not know that. I
Mhm.
couldn't not feel that. I couldn't not miss that and mourn that. So I toggled and I juggled my emotions all day long. There were times when I spent with the family who was hosting me, and I was present in all of my joy and all of my love with them. And there were times I escaped to the bathroom
Mhm.
to fight back the tears or to release some of the tears because I owed it to myself to not pretend 24/7 in every way and in every place that I felt okay because I didn't feel okay. Social media was one of the places I needed to unplug that day.
Mhm.
And when we went shopping the day after Thanksgiving on a big, bustling, bright Black Friday type sale, I walked past the girls' clothing department in Target.
Mhm.
And I remembered the little girls that I'd loved in my life and since lost. I dissociated a little bit because I struggled to hold those two things simultaneously. I
Yeah.
got myself back together. I got reconnected with all of that. But I don't feel like I can authentically sit here today and talk about gratitude during those seasonally spotlit opportunities without acknowledging that it can be really hard. And that idea of self-manipulation and self-gaslighting that can happen when we pretend or try to force ourselves into feeling something we don't feel. That's raw.
Yeah,
That's hard.
it is. And just so similar to probably how the betrayed has been living.
Tell me more about that.
It's like this added layer of trauma that we think we should. There's that should. We think we should, no matter what's happening in our lives, be able to put a happy face on it, to sit down at the family table. We should be able to interact with others. We should be able to talk about all of the things in our lives that we are grateful for. We should be able to put a brave face on. Sometimes we can't. It's just that simple. Sometimes we can't. Sometimes the best choice is to tell the truth.
Hmm.
The truth is, As much as I love sitting at this table, I'm having a hard time.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for a 5-minute walk and I'll be back.
Nice.
I'm going to go prep dessert while everyone finishes dinner. Trying to actively choose truth can lead us to gratitude. I think that if we can tell the truth, we create an atmosphere or an opportunity for others to be grateful that we're speaking the truth.
Mm.
I was having a conversation with my sister last night, and she said, "You wear a really good face most of the time." And I said, "I do." And she said, "Yeah, there have been times in your life where you were going through absolute hell, and I didn't know." And I just sat there and I grinned at her, and she said, "Our family taught us that." Right? To put the smile on, to put aside whatever's happening. And I'm going to say that I'm grateful for that ability. There are times when that has served me so well. But when I left her last night and I thought about the times that she was talking about and how much I missed by feeling like I couldn't tell the truth, the opportunities for gratitude and grace that I would have had to have my sisters stand beside me. It's big. I think we talked last week about how if you want people to not misunderstand you,
Mm.
that you have to be willing to share what's happening for you and who you are. I didn't have a willingness to share what was happening to me at certain times in my life. And therefore, I missed the opportunity to be grateful for the people in my life that love me just because.
Hear that.
So we can create opportunities to feel grateful by telling ourselves the truth and telling other people the truth.
Yeah.
The truth is, I woke up for probably a year and more thinking my life is a Jerry Springer show. And I remember when I would wake up and go, "Oh, my life's a Jerry Springer show." And then I would look over and I'd see that bald head asleep next to me and I'd say, "And I am grateful for second chances."
Yes, I love that so much because that idea of pairing that pain with the honesty of what still exists or what could exist, that hope for what's possible in the future. That's what's catalytic about all of this. That's what moves us from that trauma to that healing and processing and growth through and beyond the trauma, right? There's a line in that quote that said, gratitude is a counterweight,
Mm.
not a cover up. It's the and, not the instead of. Gratitude can balance pain without erasing it. It says, pair gratitude with honesty. This hurts, and I'm grateful for second chances, like you said. It says, guardrails. Gratitude doesn't excuse harm, but it reclaims access to what nourishes.
Mm. So, what do you think about that statement?
It aligns for me with the idea that through betrayal and through trauma, I lost the best part, the part I loved most of who I was. I have needed reminders.
Mm.
I have needed those glimmers. I have needed those lights in the darkness to remind me what matters most. I remember there was a time in my life where I found old journal entries from 10 years previous. And I remember telling someone, I opened up these journal entries and I was reading what I wrote 10 years ago. And it was fascinating to me because I was writing about the same things, showing up in different ways. But I said, I had begun to think of my life as like this random eclectic collection of leftovers. I did this, it went wrong. Here's what I've got left. I did this, it went wrong, and here's what I'm now juggling. I went through this and it went badly, and now this is how I'm picking up the pieces. But somehow reading those journal entries made me realize I wasn't just a random collection of leftovers. There was actually a theme and a meaning and a purpose to my life. And that's what I think of when I think of that idea of reclaiming access.
Mm-hmm. Beautifully said.
So, what would you say to betrayal survivors who are in that place where the pain is enormous, in many ways, all encompassing, and there isn't or doesn't feel like there's much room or much reason to feel grateful for anything?
I think my answer is to get strategic. I think my answer is to create a battle plan. I think that my answer is that you get to acknowledge where you are. You get to share where you are, and you get to make some choices about where you want to be. I remember turning the holiday traditions on their ears some years so that one, I had something to do that was different, something to focus on, something to create, and two, to change the channel from the norm. And so we often give our clients the advice, if you have holidays at home, what would it be like to have a holiday somewhere else?
Yeah, yeah.
If you typically have Thanksgiving at noon, what would it be like to have it at 5? What would it be like if you invited people to bring things and you just did the turkey instead of doing the whole thing? What would it be like to say to a family member, I'm not up for having Christmas this year? Could you do it? Becoming strategic about how to spend your time, I think, is such a simple solution. I'll go, "Ugh, of course." But it is so hard to remember when we are flooded by pain. We often say to our clients, put an activity in. Don't just expect that sitting at a table talking with each other can go well in whatever stage you are, because you don't always know,
Yep.
but put an activity in. So, here in South Florida, you could play croquet, you could do all kinds of different things. So, choosing to do something, going to a soup kitchen and serving, creating a new memory, creating a new experience, and a new way to see yourself interacting with the world.
I'm thinking how thematic that is. This query response surprised me in the sense that it didn't just say, make a list of all the things you're grateful for. It really emphasized the need to cultivate that felt sense, to anchor this idea of seeking to reclaim or reconnect with something that we do, with something that we make, with something that we change.
Mhm.
And that's really something I've learned from you.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
There was a theme running through my mind this morning about if I can't be grateful for my whole situation, the
Mm.
overarching big picture, are there components or corners of that experience that I can feel some gratitude for? One of the things that crossed my mind was the idea of being grateful for clarity.
Mm.
Clarity can be a, it can be, how do I say that politely? Clarity doesn't always bring a feel-good message. Sometimes clarity can show me what's not working, how bad something really is, how unsustainable a situation might be. That
Mhm.
is not a feel-good message. I
Mhm.
remember hearing once that disillusionment is a gift in disguise because it means that we are no longer living under an illusion. There have been so many times that I was not grateful for the message, but I was grateful to know and sense and secure for myself that clarity.
That clarity is so important because our body already knows the truth.
Yeah,
And so our heads and our bodies are warring with each other when we're living under an illusion.
yeah,
And so we often call that fantasy. In this arena, we talk a lot about sexual fantasy, right? And how we see that as something that an unfaithful's brain cannot do any longer. But lots of times we talk about fantasy just as sort of a negative worldview. I'm going to step into fantasy about what could be, or what should be, or what I thought it was, or any of that. And so you have this war going on between your head and your body, thinking that, oh, if it could only be like this in this fantasy, but your body knows that you're just making up stories.
yeah.
So there's something very grounding
Mm,
about truth, about knowing what is what.
yeah,
I would much rather have the truth, as awful as it might be, in any situation than to not have the truth.
yes.
And I think that that's something that, as betrayal trauma specialists, we shout from the rooftops, right? Don't protect us. Don't protect your husbands or wives in the situations where you think that you cannot tell them the truth.
I have said so many times I would rather be wounded by the truth than soothed by a lie.
Mhm.
That is so reparative. It may not repair the relational connection,
Mhm.
but it gives me traction. It allows me to get a grip and, as always, to make those informed choices. I feel like part of what we are inviting betrayeds and all couples navigating through betrayal is to give ourselves permission to opt out of this fantasy that we need to project an attitude of gratitude. Sometimes we externalize so many of our reference points. We measure ourselves by what other people are doing or thinking or saying or feeling or expecting or asking and all of those things. So, that permission to opt out of that fantasy experience. I many years ago grasped onto this little phrase, this tidings of comfort and joy that we hear about at holiday times, and realizing that my wish for myself and for people I love is that we could experience meaningful moments, a few meaningful moments, not
Mhm.
fake ones, and not a whole tableau,
Right.
meaningful moments of comfort and joy. That is what I define as a successful celebration of any kind, really.
I love that. It is so true. What do you think unfaithfuls can do to create an opportunity for a meaningful moment?
The first thing that comes to my mind, per usual, is be present.
Yes.
If you stop faking it and show up with authenticity, it doesn't mean you don't have to show up at your best. You have to bring your best to that.
Yes.
But what your best is needs to be real. Being present is everything. Not suspending that attempt to be present if it isn't reciprocated. If your partner's struggling and can't meet you in that invitational space, Don't give up. Don't quit. Don't abandon that opportunity.
Mhm.
Part of what your betrayed partner is looking and wanting and craving and needing is for you to provide the consistency
Mhm.
as he or she is struggling and healing in ways that you might not see on the outside for all kinds of different reasons. And I think the third thing is do the right thing without expectations.
Yeah, I love that. Do what your personal integrity says is the right thing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And if you want to run that by some safe people in your life to get a sounding board about, that is always bonus points. One of our unfaithful partner clients who, for all occasions, whether it be a birthday, an anniversary, Valentine's Day, some other occasion on the calendar, every single holiday gives his wife a thank you card. It's the appropriate sentiment. It isn't empty promises or even genuine promises that don't hit the target. Every occasion is an expression and an opportunity for him to articulate his gratitude to her for her healing, for giving him a chance to heal, for giving them a chance to heal. I think that is so beautiful. I read years ago that feeling gratitude but not expressing it is like buying a gift for someone and not giving it to them. Now, I think that's different than those of us who buy gifts and forget where we put them. I'm looking at you, Sharon.
I'm pretty famous for that.
But feeling that gratitude and not expressing it to your betrayed partner is a missed opportunity. Again, we're not saying lay it on thick. We're not saying grovel. We're not saying oversize that. We're saying small, meaningful moments of
Yes,
appreciation
yes.
as well.
Perhaps have sort of a game plan between the two of you, collaborate about what's going to happen. Think about tag teaming each other in order to get the job done during the holiday. I've been known to pull out games
Mm,
at the table when my capacity to carry on a conversation is hampered, and some of the most fun we've had sitting around the table
mhm.
is with a game and something that makes us laugh and appreciate each other.
Which is extra awesome because as we say so often, we need to give our trauma brains a break. We need to create some relief and some space for something else to catch a spark and to grow.
And that takes me to what I thought of when you brought this subject up to talk about today. And I thought about suspending what is happening so that you can be present for a family moment,
Mm,
and how that can be so very authentic and healing. We're not saying fake it.
mhm,
We're saying make a conscious choice
mhm,
if you want to say, I am going to take this box of you know what, and I'm going to walk out my back door. I'm going to walk across the backyard. I'm going to walk into my garden shed. I'm going to dig under my garden shed. I'm going to bury this box down here. I'm going to come back up, walk back to the house. And for 2 hours, I'm going to look at the people that I love and be so grateful for each one of them.
yeah.
And if it doesn't work that way, oh well, I can always run to the potty.
Yep.
I,
Escape plan.
I really think that we should name going to the bathroom something just wonderful. We'll throw that out there, like the escape plan to the bathroom. Nobody's going to follow you to the bathroom. Well, unless you have sisters, then they probably do the bathroom. But that ever ready ability to step out of conversation, step out of a feeling, step out of something, go somewhere, shut the door, Get yourself back together. Ask yourself some of the questions, the reality producing questions that we have talked about before. Why am I feeling the way that I am? What is happening in my body? I'm going to choose to tap. I'm going to choose to put my hand on my heart, my hand on my belly, and I'm going to make a decision. Do I want to continue with the plan that I have, or should I reach in my back pocket for the next plan?
Yeah. Yeah. Love that so much. There really is that sense of we can reset. We can reboot. I remember someone telling me once, you can start a new 24-hour day any moment, any minute. It's
Mhm.
because I had this self-defeating pattern where once something went off the rails, I lost some motivation to try to get it back.
Like when you eat a bag of Oreos and then you go, oh, I've already eaten poorly today, so I'll have pizza for dinner.
Pretty much, pretty much. And so that was very helpful to me in realizing I actually have the power to reboot this day and do differently moving forward. You talk about that bathroom escape. It's been life-changing for me to recognize that breathing deeply in activates my central nervous system. It gives me what might be possible in order to reboot that situation. But the exhale is magic.
Really is.
For me, that exhale is where I can literally picture discharging whatever traumatic energy I do not want to carry forward. That is where I free up space for the next inhale and to breathe in something different in the next inhale. You and I were joking a little bit before we started about some of the funny, irreverent, provocative things we could title this episode, but that idea that can that angst that we feel and some measure or some manifestation of gratitude coexist. I think that's what we're talking about.
Yes.
The beautiful, simple, tiny last line of what I looked up this morning said, let gratitude be the seasoning. Don't try to make it the main dish. I think that's where we trip ourselves up.
I think so too. I think that's just so beautiful. When we talk about moments of grace, we're not talking about being able to live life in that pinnacle of beauty or magic. We're talking about a moment in time.
Mhm. The real world stuff.
Yep. Beautifully said, my friend.
I love talking about this stuff with you and
Yeah.
with everybody else who joins us for these conversations.
We really do appreciate how many of you are watching. We are reading every email you send. We're working on a list of things that you have asked us to talk about. And even if we don't have just a whole episode about it, we are already weaving in what you're asking for in our episodes. If you want to email us,
Our email address, as always, is askthebetrayed@gmail.com.
please know that we cannot do therapy via email. And like us, stay tuned for Ask the Unfaithful next week.
We have heard from so many couples who listen to both sides of these conversations, the one you and I have about Ask the Betrayed, the one James and Sam have about Ask the Unfaithful. They listen to them together. They pause the episodes. They talk about, is this how I experienced it? Is this how you experienced it? Does this have something for us to hold on to here? And that to me really crystallizes the epitome of why we've done this collaboratively versus
Yeah.
independently.
I love that. I love the clients who may not be together when they watch it and they take notes and they get together on Wednesday evenings and say, okay, these were my takeaways.
Yeah.
What were yours?
Yeah.
We're just so happy and so grateful that people are really using this to get better.
Yes. Yes. So thank you for listening. We will see you same time, same place in 2 weeks.